Good morning, Neo-Swedenborgianists. All right, I want to clarify one thing in this episode. What are we? We're at 478. And I want to clarify who my audience is and who this applies to, this stuff I'm talking to. Because I am working with the idea that all this NDE stuff is a product of language acquisition. But I don't want to speak too broadly. Therefore, I am going to limit my audience to people who understand me in English, because I can't really say what applies in other languages. So I'm not going to try. So we've heard about this idea of things seeming more real. And I want to talk to the skeptics who think, well, it doesn't really apply to them. Because that's what I get, is that people think that, okay, this happens to some dupes, but it's not going to happen to me. And there's this Howard Storm guy who had an extraordinary NDE, and I think in part of it he was picked up and he was in Jesus' hand. This is after being attacked by a band of demons. That's the kind of thing you read about in when you start reading near-death experience. This guy's flesh was eaten by a band of demons and he was left to die. That's Howard Storm's story. Until Jesus came down with his, picked him up and held him in his hand. And Howard Storm went from being an atheist art professor to a Jesus-promoting evangelical preacher. This experience changed him in that way. There's another guy, the pilot, is his name Captain Dale. Captain Dale tells this story about how after his near-death experience, he was a young man and he wasn't religious prior to this, and he claims to have had normal young man thoughts at the time. And then he has his near-death experience and he wakes up and there's a nurse in the room, like an attractive nurse, and his first thought was, I wonder if she knows Jesus. Right? That's what Dale Black. And then he also became a preacher. Like, this experience is so overwhelming and it so reestablishes the priorities in your life that people just can't deny it, and they have to live for whatever it is they've experienced. And that's all observable because it's happened to a number of people. And I will even say it is also fakeable. And I think some of the people doing this are faking it. Absolutely. You know, there's a percentage that's faking it. Because the reason they're faking it is because these people who have had the experience, they speak so powerfully and they speak with such knowledge. They don't believe they know because they've experienced it. And so that's highly compelling speech when you have somebody like, well, scientifically speaking, we can't really... And then you have this other person that says, yes, I know, I have seen it. And that becomes a more compelling speech. And so that's imitated and faked. But the fact that it's faked does not negate the fact that it really seems to happen to some people. Yeah, so anyway, so it might happen to you, and it doesn't really matter of your religious upbringing or the religious setting of your life. I did not have a religious upbringing, and I have not had a near-death experience either, and I'm just explaining what the patterns I see in it. So this is nothing about, you know, I haven't had some massive revelation or insight. It's actually kind of a mundane little insight. But when you using this insight, a lot of things fall into place. And the basic point is that these near-death experiences apply to everyone who understands me in English. Because if you understand me in English, there's an organization in your brain. And when you say I and me, we're saying the same thing. We're talking about this symbolic self. When somebody says, I got my feelings hurt, what do they mean? What part of their body? It's part of their spirits, which is your feelings. It's part of your spirit body. You have a spirit body, and the spirit body may, or does, it's been shown, exist for maybe, let's say, 30 seconds after your physical body dies. Okay, so I'm working on the assumption that the spirit body is an emergent quality of the physical body. So the spirit body, after all this, emerges and something happens to your physical body, you die, you start to fade away. Your spirit body has 30 seconds. It has 30 seconds by the clock on the wall. But as they all say, they seem to last a lot longer. They seem to last a lot longer. The Intramuros book, the woman doesn't actually die, even though she sees her own funeral. So just to be clear, there's gray area all over this place. You might say, well, how did she see her own funeral if she died? If she didn't really die, right? Well, I don't know. I'm just telling you what's in the book. So, anyway, the point is, if you understand me in English, it applies to you. Because it is a product of language acquisition and the specific kind of NDE we see with these people meeting Jesus. A lot of people have this meeting Jesus. And if you want to look at it Neo-Swedenborgianistically, which as I've said is not a religion, so we're not looking at this Jesus thing as if it's real. You can look at it that way if you want to. It can affirm your faith. Near-death experiences affirm a lot of different people's faith. But what we're looking at it as, this is this little human creation world that we then fall into. Our spirit, our when we close our eyes in death, our essential self kind of falls into this other world. And if you're assuming it only lasts 30 seconds as the body fades away, well, that is objective. It lasts 30 seconds, and both the doctor and the nurse can look at the clock. And they see you died at 7:01, and at 7:01 and 30 seconds, your near-death experience is over, and you're just a cold slab of meat. Well, that's how they see it objectively, but you're not going to see it objectively. You're going to see it subjectively. So your ride, you're getting on a roller coaster, they're not. What's the roller coaster ride like? If you want to have faith and belief, you can say the roller coaster ride ends with you in heaven, and you go and start your heavenly life. But that's not what we're saying. That's not Neo-Swedenborgianism. That's Swedenborgianism. Neo-Swedenborgianism says what happens is you get on this roller coaster ride and you take it and that's it. You end in oblivion. But the roller coaster ride may very well seem to last 300 years. Okay? That's the point. The point is that a person lives to be 100. They could very well have 300 more years of life, of existence, of self-knowledge, of ability to learn and enjoy and experience. Okay, because these people die and then they come back and they're like, it smelled so good. I heard beautiful music. I saw a river. I swam. Right? I ate a fruit. This is very visceral stuff here. I walked with my grandmother and then we flew through the air to another city. Right? It goes on like that. So I'm saying that this potential 300 years of further existence after you die, it's no longer the realm of religion. We can look at it because we have these first-person accounts of it. And that is how it is experienced, is in the first person. That's why the first-person accounts are compelling, because you think, wow, what if I was being eaten by demons and the hand of Jesus picked me up? Would I be skeptical then? I mean, how much, these things are overwhelming. And the skeptics who say, well, I wouldn't be overwhelmed, it's just hot air. So anyway, wow, almost 10 minutes. Thanks. See ya.